We are with Deborah Zelasny. She is the author of Key of the Darkhouse, which is available wherever books are sold.
Thank you.
Um, Deborah, you have a really interesting journey because you started as a second grade teacher and you were, very creative, always known for doing extra projects and making newsletters for your class and then special projects for the class. And then that kind of evolved to creating websites in the 2000s when like nobody had websites. And eventually you left teaching and went to form the Jersey Mama, which is a very well-known blog. I mean, you have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and you do all the toy shows and all the places that you can go, Jersey and beyond. And you're big on Instagram and YouTube, so you've done a lot of writing on your blog, and you've had a lot of success. But some reason you were called to write a book. And what I thought was really interesting was that this book, Key of the Darkhouse, sat under your bed in a box for over 20 years. Is that true?
It's, yes, it's absolutely true. And when you say it out loud, it sounds very weird, but that is true. But I think everything falls into place for people at the right time. And that's what I think that book was waiting to come out. And it just took that long for me to kind of rediscover it and get it out there.
What was the reason that you needed to tell this story, and what made you act?
Well, I've always loved writing. I've always wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid, and I did go into teaching, and there are still so many aspects of writing in teaching. So I was able to help my students learn how to write and show them the joy of writing and the joy of reading. And eventually, when I left teaching to have our son, and I decided to stay home with him and not return to teaching, I started the blog, which is also a lot of writing. So you see, my heart was always going back to the writing, and I would kind of chronicle our adventures and all of our travels. And when he got a little bit older, I would say maybe like 12 or 13, he started showing somewhat of an interest in writing and reading. And I told him about the story I had written and how it was under my bed still after all these years. And he kind of wanted to see it. Like he was curious, like, you wrote a whole book? I said, yeah. And he read just the beginning part of it. And he said, you know what, this is really good. Like, you should do something with this. And I don't know if it was just because it was my own son saying it, or it was just the right moment or what, but all of a sudden I thought, you know what, I really should try this again. The book was written, it just really was not very good. It had to be polished, it needed an editor, it needed help. So I did take it out again and start working on it, especially now as he was a little older. I had the time to do it. So it kind of called me back. Those characters were waiting for me, I think, to return to them.
The things that surprised me is you're known for being such an upbeat person. Like if you for followers of the Jersey Mama blog, it's you're not beyond wearing a Hello Kitty outfit or a rainbow shirt and bringing up all the fun things that you can do, which is great. But this was a story that went to some dark places. In fact, you created this whole world called Greystone Island. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you can kind of see it on the cover there a little bit. I had a great artist who designed this for me. So you see that it isn't the rainbows and unicorns that I'm usually portraying on my website. So the island is fictional. It's called Greystone Island. It's based off of, I would say, kind of an Icelandic look where everything's cold and dark. And I don't know what it is about my writing. I tend to write things that are a little darker than my own personality, but that I think is the fun of writing, that you aren't always writing the things that you are. There's something else out there that maybe you want to touch on or to share. And for me, sometimes that dark side or the trauma that people go through, that makes for very interesting reading. And I love a flawed character. Like, I love a good flawed character, like somebody that, rises to the occasion when they are needed in the story, or someone that comes from the ashes that you didn't expect. Like, those are the most fun to write about and work with. So, maybe there's something inside of me that wants to like kind of see that other side, that the darkness and the ways you can find light in it too. Those are, always fun to write about.
Yeah, he is the protagonist. He's a teenage boy navigating Greystone Island. It's a very dark world all around. How much do you think darkness is a part of all teen experiences?
Well, being a teenager is not easy. You know, it was not easy when I was a teenager, and I'm sure it isn't easy now. I see the things that my son goes through, but I think we all do go through that, no matter what age you're at. I do think there's always some kind of darkness. And by darkness, it could be a trauma in your life, it could be the changes that you're going through, it could be just trying to find who you are. And I think him being a teenager on this island, it almost reflects the setting. You might feel this way as an adult, but as a teenager, when you're really struggling to figure out who you are, being on that dark island, it's almost like a reflection of what he's going through too. The island's physically black and gray and not a cheerful place. So, you know, unfortunately for
Yeah,
Keith.
I think as adults, sometimes it's easy to forget how much you don't have as much power when you're a teenager
Right.
because you don't have as much ability to act on your own. I'd love to read a little bit from the prologue because it really shows what you're describing. Um, he lived with his father, Lorne, in a black tower at the north end of Greystone Island. The tower was designed to be a lighthouse, a beacon to guide ships through the darkest nights. But Key's father refused to illuminate the lighthouse. Lorne Terrick believed that no ship should venture too close to Greystone Island, and no foreigners should set foot upon their shores. The other islanders supported his beliefs, so the lighthouse remained dark for decades. It became known, fittingly enough, as the Dark House. That's a pretty tough father to have.
Yeah, it's
I
one
know
of
one question people ask you a lot uh, is Lauren anything like your father?
No, no, not at all. Actually, I'm very proud to say that I have a wonderful father. He was a wonderful dad growing up too, not an abusive father at all. I like to make that clear so that people don't think that Lauren is based on any one particular person. He's definitely not based on my own father. I did try to pull from some of my own past experiences with, years ago, a relationship I was in that was not as positive and someone who was verbally and emotionally abusive. So he's very similar to Lauren, if anything. But most of the time, the characters I create are just loosely based on people. But this one, no, he's his own entity for sure.
One of the things that Key does is he keeps a little sketchbook in his coat at all times, and he's sketched these puffins, which are these bright birds that are on the island, and they're really a bright spot in his life. So he shares time with them, and when he fishes, and it's very uplifting for them. But we learn as we start to read that he doesn't draw that much now, and he kind of seems to be losing hope a little bit. It's worn down, is how I would describe his spirit,
Yeah.
until the shipwreck. When he rescues Aurora, who is a young girl, a teenager about his age. Do you think that having that one person in your life is enough to turn the tide when you're faced with hopelessness?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think one person can make a huge difference in someone's life, whether they're influencing you based on their own experiences, whether they're completely opposite of you, whether they're the same as you, someone who comes in and just gives you that little nudge that you need, whatever you may be going through. I think one person has the ability to make a huge difference. Even long term, like could be somebody you met just briefly, but then you recall something about that person or something they said. So I don't think we realize how influential we can be as human beings to one another, just in our everyday actions, personally.
So tell us about Aurora. How is she that person to Key, and what is she like? Where is she from?
Aurora is from the Green Islands, which you come to learn in the story. She was shipwrecked on Keys Island, and Keys Island is the complete opposite. She comes from a tropical, warm place that's full of color and love, and he is on this black and white island, very gray, very cold-hearted people who live there who don't appreciate travelers and foreigners. And Aurora is the traveler. She's this kind of worldly free spirit who was sailing with her parents when this accident happened. And she was raised a little differently than Key. She has more experience than him. She's met more people than him, which he doesn't know, but that's the kind of character that she is. So when she comes to Greystone, she kind of doesn't understand like what's going on with this place. How could you possibly not leave here? That's, she's seen the complete opposite. Very fiery, very confident and strong, and he's the complete opposite. Or so we think. Well, because not to
I
give too
don't want
much
to give away the
away.
whole plot.
Yeah, he does change
Yeah.
after he meets her. So there's something in there, waiting to come out.
The book really keeps you turning the pages. And what's fun about it is it's the type of book that you could, if you wanted to, you could sit down and read it in a day. If you had a day off from school and you were like, oh, I need something to do and it's raining, and it keeps you turning the pages because there's a lot that happens. I mean, you're really only touching like the very beginning and the setup of the book. But I will say, as you kind of alluded to, that there are some dark forces in the story and domestic violence. The abuse that's there, it kind of feels like a psychological muzzle to the reader through Key's eyes. You can see how it's affected him. Um, how did you know how to take the reader through that journey, and why is that part of Key's experience so important to the story?
Well, I didn't want to sugarcoat it for sure. I do feel like domestic violence is a real thing. And, my book has a fictional setting and fictional characters, but this happens to people on a daily basis. Women, boys, girls, lots of people out there go through this. So I didn't want to sugarcoat it and make it seem like, oh, he's just getting abused by his mean dad. No, he was physically abused. And I think it's important for the reader to see just how abused he was and what it was really like for him and why, it as a reader, like he needs to get out of there. You probably realize it as a reader before him. Like it almost doesn't key in for him, play on words, that he needs to get out of there. He's tried in the past and he's kind of given up at this point. He can't figure out a way off the island. So now he's just kind of learning, like, how do I deal with this? How do I just deal with it? So I think it's important for the reader to really feel that and understand it. It's uncomfortable to read too, the scenes where he is being hurt by his father, but I don't believe in making it kind of a phony thing. I feel like, you really understand that people go through this and, but you can get through it and what he chooses to do and how Aurora chooses to help him. Those are important things that you don't just sit back and take it. You have a choice as where you go next.
Aurora is a really engaging character. I like her a lot. I feel like she's someone that is easy to identify with and also aspire to.
Yeah.
Um, how what influenced you in creating her character? Were there people in your life that you were or experiences that you were modeling against? And how does she act that is important to the story?
It's funny because having written the story so long ago, you think in your own life 20, 30 years ago, you're a totally different person. So when I created the character of Aurora back then, I think I was really writing a character that would aspire to be like. She's very strong, she's confident, she's supposed to be beautiful even for her young age, and she's not really afraid of Lorne, she's not afraid of the island. And I think me as a person, I'm not much like that. I don't think I am anyway. Maybe I've come to be that over the years, a little more stronger and confident, but she definitely is this kind of fiery soul. She's probably like a conglomeration of all the strong women that I know in my life, but no one person in particular. I honestly feel like the characters in this story are um, almost like a divine intervention. Like they just kind of develop themselves. I feel like they are neither of them are really exactly like me. And I, not really based on any one person that I know. So, she's definitely someone I would hope to be like in my everyday life, I think. Minus the tragedy she's been through, of course, but her free spirit and her strength, her worldliness, like those are all great qualities for sure.
It must have been such a ray of light for Key, who's in this really difficult environment. It's abusive, it's gray. There's really not a lot of hope or support there. There are a few allies that he has, but his mother passed away a long time ago. So he's really got a lot of things where emotionally he could be quite depressed. He could even be bitter or angry. And I know that, you know, all of us go through that in life, but especially I think it's hard when you're a teenager because, again, you don't have as much agency. And so, what do you think it was in Key that kept his heart open and instead of kind of going dark himself? What had him holding on even before Aurora came?
I think it was a combination of things. You know, his mother, I think, was always the driving force. Like, as the reader, you know that she died, but you're not exactly sure how. So that's something as you're reading that you're trying to figure out. But just as the lighthouse was extinguished, like she was extinguished, so he kind of lost that light, you know, overall. But I think she taught him how to love and she taught him how to be kind, and I think that's the spirit that he carries with him. And then I think he draws strength from nature around him because, you know, he was forced to be the fisherman of the island at a very young age, and he was always alone out in the darkness fishing in the early morning hours. And he started to kind of befriend the birds and the puffins on the island because they were kind of this, you know, especially the puffins because they're kind of cute and comical. And I think those were the things that got him through. And I think him sketching in the sketchbook shows that like that's where he was putting his energy and like, you know, where he definitely went through depression. He talks a little bit about that and he definitely has the anger there. So, you know, I think if he didn't have those puffins and the memories of his mother, I think he would really you see that, like you said, he's already starting to not draw as much and sketch as much. So he's starting to lose hope, but you know, along comes Aurora.
Is there anything else that you would want the reader to know about the story? There's so many different parts about it that we haven't even touched on.
Yeah, and I don't want to give away too much because it is, like you said, it's a quick read. It's a fast-paced story. So I would love for people to come out and discover it on their own. But if you go to my website and on the back of the book, you can see that it's on the back here, jerseymamamedia.com. After you read the story and before this you read the story, you can look at it. There are spoilers on there, but they're labeled so that you won't have spoilers. But there's a whole page on there, fun facts and kind of like knowledge about the story and like where some of the characters came from and where I researched about lighthouses and about different wildlife that I put on the island. So there's some fun facts and things about deleted scenes that I took out of the story. So even if you're like, you hope to be a writer someday or you're thinking of writing your own book, if you visit my website, you'll see some of those things that went into Key of the Dark House, even the title, like where the title came from. And, you know, it's kind of fun to read through that before and after you read the story.
We're talking with Deborah Zelasny. Her first book is Key of the Darkhouse, which is available at Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, wherever books are sold. Can you get it at local bookstores in New Jersey?
You can request it. It's at some local bookstores and some libraries in New Jersey, but if you request it, they should be able to order it. You can also order it from my website, jerseymamamedia.com. There's a link there to order if you're not an Amazon shopper or not an online shopper at Barnes& and Noble. You can request it at your local Barnes& and Noble if they don't carry it as well.
And anywhere in the country, can you ask a bookstore to order it because it's in
Yep.
the system?
You
Okay.
can actually order overseas too. I do have some people who ordered from overseas. It is in the system, might cost you a little more. And I will ship overseas too from my website, so you can also order it from there. There's ebook version available as well.
Tell us about the writing bug. Are there, I have to tell you, after I read this book, I was like, oh, what happens next? So is there more to come?
Yes. There's more under the bed. There are someday I hope to make sequels for Key to the Dark House. I would love for it to be a trilogy. If you've read it, then you know it kind of ends, you know, and you're hoping to find out more. And I did that on purpose because, you know, hopefully we will find out more eventually. And then right now I'm working on a totally different story that I hope will be finished by the winter time because that would be a great time to release it. It does have kind of a colder setting than the Barrack Sea and Greystone Island. So that one will come next. That's called Banishment. So we'll see.
Banishment.
Mhm.
Great. Well, we look forward to hearing your more stories from you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, Deborah. Again, anyone who's looking to find Key of the Dark House, you can go to Jersey Mama Media or wherever books are sold. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Here it is one last time. Key of the Dark House.